But when we can begin to switch our perspective of like, I'm investing time not only for this life and and the expansion of who I'm becoming, but also my future lives. And that perspective has really shifted me. Hello, sweet, beautiful souls. Welcome back to Divine Alignment. Today, we are going to be going to a place off into the cosmos as we talk about the topic of time. This has been something I have been really fascinated by over the years, and I am by no means an expert, but I continue to receive really helpful, intuitive guidance around this, and has been something I myself have been studying and fascinated by. So we are going to be diving into time, how to really, perhaps, I wanted to say understand, but maybe even not understand it. So if you are new, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button, and let's dive right in. Okay, so time. This is such a fun topic to talk about because I believe how this really started showing up for me is in terms of manifestation. So, like, if we're wanting to manifest something, like whether it's in, I mean, we kind of have these categories of like relationships, wealth, and career, and health. And if you're feeling stuck in any of these areas, it can be easy, not easy, but worthwhile to look in the other area to kind of just like shift the energy and reroute our energy. And then inevitably, we will see changes in the area that we're struggling. However, what I have found is that sometimes people are struggling in all three areas, which has happened to myself included. And so what do we do then? Like, where do we focus then? Do we focus on the least struggles, or like what do we do? And that's when I really came across this idea of looking at time. And because time is very much a currency, people say it's the only thing we can't get back, which I don't know if that's a helpful thing to really be saying either. I really want to just pose all of these things because I really want to shift your perspective, because my perspective has been shifted a lot, and I still don't know that I have the answers, but we're going to just kind of explore. We're going to see if anything else comes through. And yeah, so let's start there. If you are seeking to shift something in your life and you have tried working on it so much, everything is a reflection in your life. So if you are feeling like stressed out all of the time and like stressed in your health, and like there isn't enough money, and you're not receiving enough from your relationships, and you're not feeling like your body is performing the way that you want it to, I wouldn't be surprised if you are also feeling like you don't have enough time. That's kind of just how it works. Like, we think that all of these things happen in isolation, and they just don't. They just don't. Things we are, you've heard me say this all the time, like, oh, we are a whole ecosystem, truly. Like, things don't happen in isolation. Just like one thing in the body doesn't happen in isolation. So just because something is going on in your brain or in your gut or in your arm, like, it's all related. There's something else happening somewhere else in your body. Like, and this is where mainstream medicine is really behind, is thinking that if we just like, the common thing is just take it out. Just take it out. Just take out your spleen. Just take out your appendix. Just take out your tonsils. Just take out your colon, which I've even heard. Like all of these things, and it's like, well, like, what if it came there for a reason, to show you something, to tell you something? And even with like cancer, just taking out the cancer, but it's like, well, what's underneath the cancer, right? Like, there's an energy underneath the cancer. And so this is why we see it coming back so often, is because it's like there's something underneath, like why it came, and looking at it will actually help release it. So I say all of this because when we look at time, it's really important, or I guess rather, really interesting to see how this energy is overlapping in other areas of your life. Do you feel scarcity or do you feel abundance? Right? And I feel like the majority of people are living in time scarcity. And it's nothing you're doing wrong. It's literally like a program in society to not feel like we have enough time. And so you're not doing anything wrong. And I literally started a topic, or rather a suggestion that my guides shared with me that I've been doing, which I have found really incredibly helpful, is to just ask that I unplug from time scarcity and plug into infinite time. Plug into infinite time. Plug into my infinite self. Dolores Cannon, who, if you follow me on Instagram, whenever I can't sleep, Dolores Cannon's books are my go-to, and I just lay, and there's always something for me when at 3 and 4 in the morning when my guides wake me up and I can't fall back asleep. I'll just turn on some Dolores Cannon. And something that Dolores Cannon says is that, which if you haven't read her books, I highly recommend. The Convoluted Universe is the one that I'm on right now. I always have multiple books going at once. That's how I am. I have my book that I read in the morning, my one that I read before bed, the one that I read on occasion when I need this energy or that energy. So I know that's going to bother some people, but just that's how my energy works. And so anyways, she says something, or rather not she, but the people, the ETs or the entities that were channeled say, you humans are so funny. You found a way. You are probably the only species in the universe who have found a way to measure something that doesn't exist in relation to time. So that really got me thinking, well, how have we come to measure something that doesn't exist? Now, this is really fascinating because I do think that time serves a very important purpose. Like, how would we know when meetings are, or when sessions are, or events are, or holidays are? Like, not that holidays they're usually just Hallmark money. Anyways, we won't go into that rabbit hole, but I do think that time is important, and yet I think the invitation here is to how can we begin to hold less tightly to it? Because really the paradigm that we're shifting into is time abundance, time freedom, and the remembrance that we're infinite. So something else that really shifted for me was when I did a meditation, and my guides brought me and showed me many of my past lives. Now, I've started referring to past lives as parallel lives because while I don't fully understand this, I've come to see and hear and feel and learn that these occurrences are not just in the past. They're actually just different realities. They're different realities, different dimensions that are happening simultaneously. So I started calling them parallel lives. And again, this isn't something that my brain fully understands, yet my mind, my infinite higher self, knows this to be true, or knows the idea of this to be true. I'm not saying any of this is right or wrong, or true or false. I'm simply posing these as contemplations, because really, like, why I share all of these things in the first place is I want you to come into truth and awakening and remembrance of who you are and your truth and your power. And that means that what you believe one day might not be the same thing you believe another day. And that's okay. That's okay. I think that the more that we can hold loosely to our beliefs, the more we're going to find out and discover. And so, I think it's really fascinating because as children, I believe that we actually know this. Like, why do children not stress about time? It's not until they become adults that they see mom and dad stress about time. Well, where did they get that from? Well, probably their parents, probably society, probably the Matrix. And so we're imprinted with it from a young age that this is something that we don't have enough of. And while I do believe that there is value in what's the word? Putting time as seeing more value in time than money. I think there is immense value in that. Because really and that saying that it's the only thing we can't get back, it's like I don't think that that's necessarily helpful to live in that scarcity, but I do think it's helpful in terms of getting out of money scarcity. Because if you live in this energy of not enough, you're going to see not enough in many areas of your life. Not enough health, not enough wealth, not enough love. And so how do we just shift the perspective of there's always enough? There's always enough. And then when we continue to look at past and parallel lives, like, what about your future? What about your future? So we started to think about this idea of like, what am I investing now? What am I investing my time into now? I think one of the biggest problems with our society is seeking instant gratification. And this is because our attention span has become much shorter. Like, I feel like that's happening all of the time. It's becoming shorter and shorter and shorter. Like, that's why there's been the birth of TikTok and Reels and all of these things. It's like, because people don't have the attention span. You're here right now, so congratulations. Like, you have a longer attention span. And most people realize, like, at some points that it's not these like quick hits that make the lasting change. But that's really what social media and our world is aimed and geared for, is to give people the quick hits, the quick fixes, the quick whatever it is. And that's why the pharmaceutical industry is so successful, because people are like, why would I do emotional work and trauma work and look at all of my baggage and work with energy and learn to work with energy and learn to remember my power when I could just take a pill? But when we can begin to switch our perspective of like, I'm investing time not only for this life and the expansion of who I'm becoming, but also my future lives. And that perspective has really shifted me. That perspective has really shifted me because I now think about it in terms of it's not just impacting this life, but it's impacting the lives that I'm going to live. I'm literally planting karma every day of what I do for my future next life and life and life and life to come. How differently would you act if what you did today you knew was going to impact you many lives to come? We think that what we're doing is only impacting us right here, right now. And this couldn't be further from the case. Further from the truth is that not only is it impacting us right here, right now, but it's impacting us tomorrow, us the next day, us next week, us next year, next lifetime. And it's impacting all of those around us. So to think that these things happen in isolation, I believe, is a forgetting of the infinite energy, creation, and experience of all that we are. Another thing, so this is, I'm going to share this. This is kind of funny. I've never shared this before. Never shared this before. When I was younger, but I think there's a lot of wisdom to the thoughts that you would think when you're younger that you remember all these years later. When I was younger, I remember, ooh, and now I'm getting ringing in my ears. So we know that this is, there's something there. So when I was younger, I would have the thought, and I would often think it before bed, if something happened to me that day that I didn't enjoy, an experience or something that, like, maybe I was embarrassed or I didn't want to happen. It could have been something that maybe I didn't want to happen, not just something that did happen. I would say, I was talking with, who knows, bartering with someone. And I would say, can you just make this? I'm okay with forgetting that you helped me change this and shift this. I'm okay with forgetting the magic of this completely shifting and changing and all of that just so that it didn't happen. Now, this is an interesting bartering that I would do, because it was like I knew that I could just go to a different reality and timeline. And yet, in doing that, I knew that I would have to completely forget that reality where the moment I didn't want existed. But I believe that this is a very real thing. We can literally shift our perspective into a reality where what we desire is happening, where the things that we don't desire are not happening. And in doing so, the catch may be that you forget some things in your past that are you thought to be part of your past. And this is where I think it becomes really interesting when we look at trauma work and diving into our stories and telling our stories, right? And this is where I think some people can get caught up. I think this can be really difficult when people are trying to heal. And when we go to the doctor and they say, well, tell me about your history, tell me about your past, tell me about your upbringing. I think there is value in that to a degree. I think we need that information to get us to a certain point. And once we've gotten to that certain point, it's no longer serving where we're going. So if you're starting your healing journey, yes, your upbringing, your past, and there are going to be times, even down your journey, where I think looking at the past is very valuable. And yet, this is an invitation to become open and aware and curious as to, have I gotten to the point where that's no longer serving me, that story, reliving, retelling, reimagining that story is no longer serving me? What would actually serve me is to just create the life that I want, create the abundance that I want, create the health that I want, create whatever it is, the love, and not even go into that story anymore. And so this is where time can become more malleable. So then I believe as we raise our consciousness and we raise and elevate ourselves and our experience of ourselves and our life, our memory is going to shift. Our memory is going to change. We're not going to see ourselves as the victim of our past, which we may have for many years. That's such a common program to say, like, yes, like this happened to me and this is why I am this way. But as we elevate our consciousness and change our perspective, I see why that all happened, which caused this to happen to me. And I am so grateful because I am now the way that I am. And then perhaps we even get to a higher level of consciousness where we don't even remember that any of the problems happened because we're so fully anchored in now. And I think that that is the ultimate goal. And I know that there are many probably enlightened masters that don't even remember their past because they're so fully rooted in the now. And we would think, well, isn't that bad to not remember things? Isn't that bad to not have memory? It's a new perspective. It's just a new perspective. What are you remembering, that which serves you, or are you remembering that which doesn't serve you? It's like choosing what you want to remember. Our mind wants to keep us alive. Or our brain rather, wants to keep us alive. That's its number one job. And to do that, it looks for threats. And so it's not looking for all of the evidence in which you succeeded. It's looking for the times which it didn't go right to prevent that from happening. So we have to train ourselves to look for the ways in which it's going the way we want. And this doesn't mean that every day we see things perfect, although we can choose to see that even in the disharmony, there is so much perfection because it's leading us to who we're becoming and who we've asked to become. It's just perhaps an invitation of really anchoring into the now. And, I think that there's a million people talking about being in the present moment and embracing the present moment. But it has to shift and move from this concept of, I know I'm supposed to live in the present moment, to really the embodiment of, oh, the now moment is really all I have. And this takes a shift in awareness and consciousness and perspective for that to fully land in the body. And this is why I always advocate like being in nature, because I think that nature really helps us facilitate in and show us that that is all we have. When we're plugged into the matrix of day-to-day life, it can be hard to remember that and see that, but the now moment is all we have. And I want for you to remember that on a cellular level, on a soul level. You know it on a soul level, but I want your DNA, your cells, your body, your physicality to remember it. Because when we can anchor it into the body, that's when it becomes our living experience. So this has been a lot about time, and it's been a lot about all of these things that relate to time. It kind of went, sometimes I go on these tangents of, but I think it's all related. I know it's all related. Because whatever you're looking to create in your life, there's an energetic perspective there. And looking at time and looking at our relationship with it, our relationship with anything, with our bodies, with our money, with others. How can you look at your relationship with time just like you would look at your relationship with a partner? Because they say that, this, I've never thought about this, but what they're showing me right now is like, they say the only relationship you'll have is that for your whole life, is that with you and yourself. But I guess for this lifetime, you could also add time to that. You'll also have a relationship with time. When you're in this experience, in this dimension and reality of the universe, you will have an experience and relationship with time. And so how do you want to cultivate and treat time like a person? Treat time like a person. How differently would you feel around it and treat it and honor it? Honor it at every moment is a blessing, is a gift, and is an opportunity. All in one. All in one. Yeah. Breathe in the present moment. And then breathe in the next, and the next, and the next. And so with that, my loves, let me know what shows up for you, what comes up for you, your thoughts. I love hearing from you guys and your perspectives. And until next time, never realized that. There it is again. In all times, may you receive infinite love and light.